Good morning and welcome to the daily summation for the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on YouTube and Rumble. Today is the 10th of October 2020 and it is a Saturday. I am Kurt. I am your host, for want of a better word, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics daily summation. And I wanted to talk today about a concept that I think is really important, a couple of concepts really that are really important that I think a lot of people ignore or forget about, and I wanted to sort of, excuse me, I'm going to adjust a little bit, and I wanted to point out situations in which they ignore these things that they really shouldn't. And the first of these concepts is the idea of the presumption of innocence, right? And that basically the idea is this. When a person is accused of wrongdoing, and most particularly when it seems like that person is absolutely guilty of the wrongdoing in question, it is in the American court systems, in the American legal system, that includes the police and the prosecutors and so forth, intended to be the way that things work, that person is presumed to be innocent. I believe this is literally enshrined in the Constitution. In fact, I'm almost certain it is, as is due process. Due process definitely is. There's no doubt. I could find you where it is if you really were interested in knowing, but I think you could do just as good a job doing that as I could. So I don't think it's necessarily all that significant for me to do that for you. Nonetheless, it's pretty much an assumption that everyone makes that a person should be presumed to have not committed a given crime or act until it's proven that they are. And that puts the burden of proof, right, the idea of actually showing that somebody did something on the person doing the accusing as opposed to it being on the person being accused, right? Now, this is the thing. These are important concepts. Nobody talking about American law and legal institutions could possibly say, oh, let's just do away with those without it being a major, major problem in the minds of many, many people. And for good cause, for good reason, right? You want to be presumed to be innocent. You want it to be necessary for somebody to actually prove that you did something wrong. And yes, it's true that as a result, there are guilty people who will get off after committing a crime. But it's also true that there are a lot of innocent people that do not end up in jail as a result. Okay? And there's some other things that are going on, and I sort of have my mixed feelings about whether they're good or bad things. So, for example, there's down pleading, right? A person is accused of breaking into a house and stealing things, and he takes trespassing instead of breaking and entering, right? Which is not a great example because probably that's not what he would get. He would probably get one level of burglary or similar as opposed to another. And the same is true for charges like murder. But the point I'm making is, on the initial point, is that you can't do away with either the concept of assuming innocence or the concept of due process. Now, what's due process? Well, I described this in the blog entry that this video is on. And what I basically say is that every step along the way, there are requirements that have to be satisfied to make it so you proceed to the next step. So the police look at a person and they decide, they look at a situation and they decide, is there a crime? Then they look at the people involved and they say, can we say that any of these people pretty certainly or fairly certainly was responsible for the commission of this crime? At that point, then they have the right to essentially arrest that person, detain that person based on the crime. Then the next step is the prosecutor or whoever who decides whether or not the crime is chargeable, and if not, what is chargeable, and takes action in that regard. But that again is based on the idea that the person can be shown to be, you can do a good court case indicating that person is actually responsible for criminal activity where you feel like you have evidence to do that. At that point, it's passed off to somebody to decide whether or not, and when I say body, I mean group of people, to decide whether or not that person committed the crime. So then there's the conviction phase. When the person is convicted, that group of people decides, and it depends on what sort of crime it is or what sort of action it is to what level of requirement they have. In the most severe case, It's beyond a reasonable doubt is the established criteria for that, right? And they use that to determine whether or not that person should be convicted of a crime. I'm going to slightly adjust my camera here. Okay, and then from there, it's the job of the judge to look at mitigating circumstances, to look at sentencing guidelines, and to look at the past behavior of the individual to try and make determinations on what should happen to the individual. And that's assuming that the conviction occurs, that the person is convicted, right? So at every point, there's this due process that's going on. Now, here's the thing. These are all legal concepts. They all apply to the legal system. They don't technically apply anywhere else. But for the most part, I think what you're going to find is that people don't have any problem with applying these same concepts to just about everything. They realize that it's overburdening in lots of instances, so you can't do all of it. So they might modify the process and make it so that it's a little less onerous on the people who are actually dealing with it for them to do so. That said, though, the point is that most people want you to assume innocence until guilt is proven, and they want for there to be some sort of due process that's going to occur so that, it's not just, oh, we think they're guilty, oh, they're guilty. Here we've established it through these very simple things that don't really show guilt. They want there to be a process. And that's, when somebody's stealing lunches from the lunchroom, people want that sort of thing, I think. And maybe I'd find that there were people who didn't want that. But I think that that's probably the case. Okay, so there's that. But then there's this other place. And people acknowledge its existence, but they don't really talk about it very much. And that place is what's referred to as the court of public opinion. And in that, quote, court, there are a couple of major problems. The first is that there are people who are calm, cool, collected, who will look for the evidence, who will try and figure out what's going on. And from those people, I've almost invariably found that the chances are good what they're saying are true. There are others who deal almost exclusively on emotion, and the result is that they will basically convict somebody without any kind of real evidence that there's a reason for conviction. And other people, unfortunately, lots of times will follow them in what they do. They will agree with them in what they do. And what makes that worse, and this is the second thing, is that there are a lot of people who then feel like justice is not done because they feel like the person is guilty, and it causes a serious split between those who are careful to attempt to observe innocence until guilt is proven, and due process, some sort of due process, right? So that's an issue, right? Let's see. There's a very important point about all of this, and the important point is that when the court of public opinion grabs onto something, you will see many instances, and I can name a few of them. Breonna Taylor is an example. The Ferguson situation, the situation with Zimmerman and I'm trying to think of his name, Trayvon Martin, right? George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin. In each of these cases, the court of public opinion basically convicted people. And in every case, it's at least very questionable that conviction is reasonable at all. And so the problem is, if you try to do that sort of thing and you don't embrace due process and you don't embrace innocence until guilt is proven, what you end up with is a very sour taste in a lot of people's mouths because they decide somebody's guilty when in fact they're not. Okay, I'm running up on time, and I want to be very careful to kind of try and keep my stuff under 10 minutes at this point. I may sort of change things as time goes on. It takes about 12 minutes for an entire video for me to run because I do a social media plug and so forth. In any case, the point is, these are cornerstones of legal society in the United States, and there's a very good reason. These due process and presumption of innocence, they're very important cornerstones of the process, and we cannot ignore them. And I believe that it would be a wonderful thing if people could at least attempt to employ them in most other situations, and most particularly in the court of public opinion, right? That's very important that you don't make a judgment until you have real data. Okay, I'm about done with my video for the day, so I'm going to go ahead and wish you a wonderful day, a good weekend. Hope your Saturday's good. Hope the weekend is good. Hope the week to come is an excellent week. We are getting rain here, but it's not horrible, and hopefully things will start to be sunnier and nicer as time goes on. Obviously, we're moving into fall weather a lot of places. That's true here as well, so it's a little bit cooler. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. You have an excellent day, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. That would be Sunday the 11th. If we don't, and I messed this up yesterday, it will be on Monday the 12th that I will do that. I think probably Sunday the 11th is when that will happen. You have a wonderful day, and we'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching this video. Remember that you can like the video on YouTube, and you can give me a rumble on Rumble if you want to do that. Of course, you can also subscribe to my channel on both YouTube and Rumble. The channel would be Kurt's Religion and Politics. If you want to see more of my content, you can go to various places. The first of those places would be my blog. That's blogs.kpschubert.com, blogs.kpschubert.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, Parler or Minds.com, you can look for my handle. I am at KP Schubert. That is at KP SHUBERT. You can also see my Facebook page. That also is Kurt's Religion and Politics. I have obviously a YouTube and a Rumble account. My page, my channels on those accounts, pages, channels, whatever you want to call them, is Kurt's Religion and Politics. I have also, if you want to support me, a Patreon account. I am Kurt's Religion and Politics there. Thank you for looking at my stuff. Remember, you can subscribe. Remember, you can click notifications on the YouTube to make sure you're notified for new content. Again, thanks for coming to visit my channel. Thanks for watching this video, and you have a great day.